a man who will never put America first or Americans first, Joseph Biden, is a globalist, and I decided to go back and review his inauguration speech from yesterday. And what I pulled from that is all the man had to say was basically meaningless platitudes that revolved around the concept of unity. But I want you to know that President Biden is going to be the divider-in-chief. And as the divider-in-chief, he tweeted out something that came up on my Twitter feed this morning when I got up. And on President Biden's new Twitter account, he said that he had managed to accomplish yesterday controlling the pandemic, providing economic relief, tackling climate change, and advancing racial equity. So, let's just unpack that for a moment. I wanted to start with economic relief. I know under President Trump, the man really did provide economic relief, and we had more Americans employed with their wages rising than in any other time in the history of America. But Biden, his idea of economic relief, I'm guessing has to do with bringing 11 million illegal immigrants into the country. That's right, because what President Biden did yesterday was sign an executive order to allow 11 million immigrants to come into the country and allow those that have broken federal law and are here illegally now to have a path towards citizenship. Mind you, we've got about 11 million Americans who need a job. We've just been through a period of time called the COVID-19 pandemic, and we've had Democrats in states across the country close down businesses, particularly small businesses. So, President Biden, is your economic relief about these 11 million immigrants that you're now going to allow to come across the border and take jobs from low-wage earners who need a job? Because low-wage earners are the very people, many of them, who haven't been able to work. So, I thought that was incredible in terms of his concept of providing economic relief. Then he signed another executive order that ended XL Keystone pipeline work, which Canada and the Prime Minister of Canada really appreciated and wanted to see happen, and has helped the United States of America be energy independent. Do you know that we have not received one drop, not a drop, of oil from Middle Eastern countries? That's right, Middle Eastern countries, many of whom still have people in leadership that support Islamic terrorism. And by supporting it, I mean help fund it. And when you help fund Islamic terrorism, that means you're paying for training camps. That means you're paying for equipment that's used to assassinate and murder other people. It refers to all of the infrastructure that accompanies the training and development of an Islamic terrorist that can be sent to the United States or anywhere on the globe to commit an act of terror. So energy independence has been really important for the United States, not only in terms of national security, but in terms of jobs. When you think of the tens of thousands of American people that have been employed as a result of the XL Keystone pipeline, and Biden tells us he's provided economic relief with these executive orders that he signed, he needs to think again. So, not only from a national security perspective has the XL Keystone pipeline been important to the United States by making us energy independent. We're beholden to no one. No one can withhold oil from the United States, which is fundamentally important if you're going to have to fight a war. But it also provided jobs and therefore economic relief. My heart goes out to everyone, from the people that cut the grass, to the people that are executives or middle management, all those people that are now going to lose their job as a result of President Biden. So let's move to the next topic. So let's talk about controlling the pandemic. So basically, Biden has said, you've got to wear a mask for the next 100 days. Well, all of us have been wearing masks. All of us wear masks. We've all been shamed into wearing masks. Whether it does any good to wear masks or not, we all wear masks, and we all need to continue to wear masks. And basically what I believe President Biden has done by suggesting he's controlling the pandemic by having all of us wear masks, particularly on federal property, is going to extend this shaming and demanding of the American people to wear masks indefinitely. For all I know, we're going to be wearing masks for Biden's entire 4-year term. I won't be surprised if that's what happens. And of course, the World Health Organization, which has been in bed with China, has now been re-embraced by the Biden administration, which of course involves taxpayer dollars. So how is that economic relief, and how does that advance the American interests in terms of controlling the pandemic? If he thinks he's going to tell states what to do, that'll be interesting, because of course, President Trump wanted to tell the states what to do, but according to the Constitution, it's been up to the states to decide how they roll out the vaccines that wouldn't have even been available to the states if it weren't for President Trump and Vice President Mike Pence. And did you hear a thank you in the inauguration address by Biden? Saying thank you, Vice President Pence, and thank President Trump for the tremendous work they did in moving aside the regulations and the bureaucracy involved with getting the vaccines researched and available and ready for the American people. I think that's incredible. So I don't quite see how he's going to control the pandemic unless, of course, he's going to tell governors what they're going to do, and that'll be interesting in light of constitutional law. Climate change. Let's talk about that. So he said he's now advanced climate change. Well, what he's done is he's put the United States of America, signed us back onto the Paris Climate Accords. What does that mean? Well, that means that American taxpayers are going to see those taxes rise because Biden will have to pay for that. The Paris Climate Accords cost the American people. They cost American taxpayers. And what it does is it gives China a leg up. China has not cooperated. China is a signatory on the Paris Climate Accords as well. But China has not agreed to the kinds of measures that Obama once agreed to. So China gets a free pass, while in the meantime, the United States of America is supposed to basically submit to measures like the Green New Deal in order to advance the Paris Climate Accords. No other country in the world's willing to do that. And the biggest violators of issues related to keeping the environment or environmental safety issues are India and China. So they'll get a free pass, but we, the American people, will carry the load. And, you know, when you're talking about climate change, as long as India and China marches to their own drummer and doesn't take the drastic measures that by signing up for the Paris Climate Accords the United States will do, it's not going to affect the environment. It's not going to affect global climate change at all, because we won't have those two countries with their massive populations cooperating with the United States. Let's talk about the last point before we sign off today, advancing racial equity. One of the things I hope you picked up when you were listening, if you listened to Biden's inauguration speech, it was difficult. But I hope you picked up on the fact that he talked about domestic terrorists, and domestic terrorists are all about white supremacists. So it's no longer about those Islamic terrorist cells that are in all 50 states. It's about white supremacists. And I thought about that for a moment, and I thought, the vast majority of Americans, Republican, Democrat, Libertarians, Independents, I don't even know any white supremacists. Do you? I mean, it's so rare. I meet people that are anti-Semitic. I still run into people that are anti-Semitic. But I don't run into people that are white supremacists. And I've got to think, there might be pockets. I have to imagine there are pockets of people that embrace that around the country. Indeed, the Democratic Party were the party that wanted to control Black Americans, and they created the Ku Klux Klan. The militant arm of the Democratic Party, essentially, was what the Ku Klux Klan was. I believe still is in some parts of America. But they're just small pockets. I believe the Black Lives Matter and Antifa are the new militant arm of the Democratic Party, because the Democrats will not condemn their violent activities, including shooting police and beating up white people and leaving them for dead on the street, which just happened this week, by the way. Have you heard one Democrat condemn it? I haven't. If you have, be sure and let me know. So thinking about racial equity, hello. I'll tell you what Biden was talking about in his inauguration speech. He was talking about Republicans like you and I. He was talking about conservative Republicans, because we're now considered a white supremacist if we support the wall. Think about that. They called President Trump, who over and over and over and over again said that he was absolutely against the Ku Klux Klan and any kind of white supremacy group or neo-Nazi group. Any group that was advancing prejudice and racism, he was against, and he said it over and over again. I've played a montage on my show of President Trump over the last several years denouncing any kind of supremacy. I mean, the man, multimillionaire, he hired people of all races and ethnicities to work for him and advance those individuals within his organization. I mean, there's no evidence of any racism on the part of President Trump. And indeed, he did so much for Israel. So there's no anti-Semitism, obviously, there because of what he's done for the Jewish people in the only Jewish state on the planet. So, but the Democrats, however, seem to be very, very much racist. And of course, I just read yesterday that on day one, Biden changed the U.S. ambassador's title to not being just the U.S. ambassador to Israel, even on the Twitter feed. It was the U.S. ambassador to Israel, to the West Bank, and to Gaza. Well, the West Bank is a territory. It's territory. It's part of Judea and Samaria. Biblical Judea and Samaria, where Jews live. I've visited Judea and Samaria a few times, and there are Jewish communities all over Judea and Samaria. These Jews have been living in Judea and Samaria since Bible times. And of course, the Jewish people have applied sovereignty over those areas because they've won those areas in wars that they've had to fight in self-defense, because they've been attacked by Muslim Arab nations like 5 times. So I don't know what the Biden administration is even talking about. Do they even understand the history or know about the history of the Middle East? Because to have an ambassador over some territory like Gaza, which is controlled by Hamas and ISIS and terrorist groups, basically run Gaza. And of course, as I said, Judea and Samaria has Muslim Arab communities and Jewish communities. But a lot of that is, again, part of the state of Israel. So again, I don't understand what the Biden administration was trying to do day one on that, but it sounds anti-Semitic. And to then suggest, and this is what's happening. This is what's happening. I want to read you the headline from the Daily Beast. It says, "Can U.S. spy agencies stop white terror?" And what they're doing is they're defining white terror as Republican conservatives who don't support Black Lives Matter, because Black Lives Matter believes in domestic terrorism. Black Lives Matter is a Marxist organization that's run around America and burned down private property, government property, and beat up people. And as I said earlier, left them for dead. Antifa does the same thing. BLM has even stated they're against the family unit. They promote transgenderism and homosexuality, but they're against the family unit. You know, a mom and a dad and children. You know, they're all against that. And they want Marxism, so they want to defeat capitalism, and they don't want democracy. They support a more totalitarian or socialist style of government. So, yeah, I mean, conservative Republicans don't support that. I understand that Democrats, many Democrats do, but we do not. That's why we voted for President Trump. We weren't duped into voting for President Trump. Republicans, I know the Democrats keep telling me we're duped into voting for President Trump, but we voted for him because we supported his America First policy agenda. People that voted for Biden voted for him because they thought they were going to get a moderate Democrat. I don't know that moderate Democrats exist in leadership positions in either the House of Representatives or the Senate, because the Democrats do not condemn BLM or Antifa, and they seem to support going after conservative Republicans who support things like the wall and want to prevent people from breaking our laws and coming here illegally. They want to prevent drug cartels from coming across the border. They want to prevent human traffickers from coming across the border, and a wall helps facilitate that process. It also helps facilitate the process of preventing Islamic terrorists from crossing that border from Mexico into the U.S., because many of them pose as Hispanics and they have a fake passport, and they move right into the United States and set up shop. And that's one way they do it. There's other avenues that they go through as well, but that's one of them, is coming up through Mexico. And Hezbollah, supported by Iran, is one of those terrorist groups that have a very heavy footprint in South American countries and Central America and Mexico. So anyway, I wanted to, I guess, make it clear that the Democratic Party has demanded power and control. It's why they supported slavery in the 1800s and in the early 1700s, and it's why they support the welfare state today and bringing illegals into the country, because it takes time for people that come here legally and illegally to become assimilated, to learn the language, to learn the history, and they just think to themselves, well, they'll vote Democrats because Democrats don't support the wall. It's a scary time. And it's scary when Democrats are calling conservative Republicans white supremacists and domestic terrorists, because we don't support their ideological agenda, which, of course, Biden refused to talk about when he was running for office. All he talked about was how terrible he thought Trump was when Trump was putting the American people first, making sure they got back to work and their wages were rising, protecting the unborn, helping the state of Israel, and working with our allies. We'll have to keep a sharp eye on Biden, because I believe he's going to do more to destroy the United States during his tenure in office than probably any other president to date. Thank you for listening. We'll see you tomorrow.
President Trump has correctly stated that economic security is national security, and in the Tehachapi Mountains of Kern County resides a United States defense contractor, Denice Products. Here is the Silicon Valley of the aerospace industry, right here in East Kern. Denice Products is a forward-leaning manufacturer and distributor of hardware sold to major defense and aerospace companies. We're talking about Boeing, Lockheed Martin, United Technologies, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon General Electric, and on the list goes, as well as to every United States ally worldwide, including Israel, America's most important strategic ally in the Middle East. And for everything that flies, Denice Products is providing the parts. And with me today is the president of Denice Products, Scott Baker. Hi, Scott.
How you doing?
You believe this corner of Kern County is the hub of the aerospace industry.
Well, this portion of Southern California here out in the Antelope Valley, it contains, some of the most cutting edge technology going on in aviation today. We have some of the UCAS programs with unmanned technologies going on. We have Edwards Air Force Base out here who's doing continual testing in their area. We have the Naval Weapons Station up there at China Lake doing some fantastic cutting edge stuff, cruise missile technology, and those things are going on. We have Scale Composites locally doing a lot of composite technology, which is new. We have SpaceX, which is a private entity putting things into space now. This area is the growth center for aviation's future, and this is the area I think that as a nation we need to be concentrating some of our effort and taking this technology. And as we all know, with the space program from Apollo years ago, out of these technologies, we the private sector are going to reap some of the benefits of that.
Thank you, Scott. Ladies and gentlemen, Scott Baker, president of Denice Products. Denice Products, located in the beautiful mountains of Tehachapi, California, in eastern Kern County, is home to some of the most innovative and specialized technologies in the world, including those at the U.S. Naval Air Warfare Center, Weapons Division at China Lake, Edwards Air Force Base, as well as Strata Launch, launching satellites capable of delivering multiple orbits in a single flight to space. And it is Denice Products that has provided the manufactured devices, and the president, Scott Baker of Denice Products, Marine Corps veteran, reactivated on 9/11 to monitor threats to the homeland, is carrying on a tradition of providing for the security of the United States by manufacturing every kind of fastener on anything that flies, as well as providing a full testing destructive laboratory. Contact Denice Products, now in business for 30 years, at 661-822-6873. Located at 1314 Goodrich Drive in Tehachapi for your manufacturing and testing needs today.